Hey, how's it going? In my first few years of flying, I flew all around the world, from the pack launches of Aludinus to top landing in gusty valleys surrounded by 5,000 metre peaks in the Caucasus, and the pure commitment with the prospect of multi-day hikes out from the valleys of the Himalayas. Since returning from my round-the-world trip, I've been focusing on flying in my home country, the UK. It's a pretty unique flying scene here with a few thousand pilots flying from every available lump down south through to the mountains of the north, Wales and Scotland. The UK is a small and rainy island, and if you know any Brits, you know we like to talk about the weather, and that's because there's a lot of it. June really highlighted the ups and downs of flying in this country. Let me show you what I mean. The month started with the X-Lakes competition. Last year was the first year I joined this hike and fly event, which is 2 days of flying and hiking around the highest terrain in England. That year I managed an awesome flight to goal on the second day, and I was so hyped this year that I have to admit I was watching the forecast a little bit too closely from about a week before. Preparing, looking at it on my screen while I was working, looking at the thermal and wind forecasts. I was super hyped. Things were looking really good. But when it came down to it, the weather had other plans. So it's the Wednesday night. I'm just finishing up a whole bunch of work that I need to get done before driving up to the lakes this year for the X-Lakes 2025. I'm super excited about the race this year. My flying's just been getting better and better, and in these races, it's the flying that really counts. Also, the forecast is looking pretty good. It's fluctuating so much that one day it's looking like a super thermic afternoon on the Friday. Other days it looks like it's just going to be ridge soaring. But either way, it's such an amazing playground there with the mountains. I feel like we're going to get some really awesome flights this year. This is also the first time I pretty much got my entire family coming up to support me, including my little baby Zach. So I'm hoping that he gets to see me flying into goal at the end. Right, let me get this work finished and pack up the car, and then tomorrow morning I'm going to head out on the road. The next day, the family and I drove the 300 miles up to the Lake District.
The registration. Is that any better? Oh, okay. So first up was going to be Paul and Phil. They're going to cover any admin points and health and safety for Grasmere. Then we've got Tom Hoskins up for the weather brief. Then we've got Buzz up for the mountain and sea breeze brief, followed by Bungay here, who's going to give the LCC brief.
So it's the morning before the X-Lakes, and 6 a.m. I'm about to head into the field, and I'm pretty deflated, to be honest. I've been looking forward to the lakes for a little while, and I did what is quite common for flying in the UK. I looked at the forecast probably a bit too much every single day, and there were some really promising days where it looked like low winds and strong thermal forecasts, but it's looking pretty windy, particularly anywhere into the lakes. The weather briefing was pretty pessimistic yesterday, but I still held out a little bit of hope that things would ease off, but really most forecasts are saying that it's not going to ease off. But I've got a good idea of how I can still get a good adventure out of the weekend. There's 3 things that would make a really good weekend for me. 1, climbing Scaffold Pike. I've never done it before. It's not something I would normally do if I was serious about points in the race and flying. 2, find an awesome place to camp. I'm thinking medium height, not on the top of a peak, and a tarn would be awesome. And 3, distance. I've been training hard for this and my 3-hour marathon goal next year. So let's see how much I can cover in the 2 days. Today alone, I've got 14 hours on the road. It's going to be a beautiful sunny day, clear on the tops of the hills. So let's enjoy it. I'm also hoping to keep my toenails this year. This is my attempt at keeping them. Just got to try and keep my feet dry as well. After a quick cup of coffee, I jumped in my in-laws' van and got a lift over to the start. There's actually a whole subreddit of... When I arrived, the Grasmere sports field was still quiet, but that didn't last for long. I spotted my name on last year's Joe Median Trophy, signed the board, and with that we were off.
Misogynist at the front!
So most of the field has come up this way to the west, and I'm following a couple of pilots that ran off ahead and leading a few more behind. A few keen pilots disappeared in different directions. I saw Rosie going to the east, where it might be lower winds. But for now I'm tracing the route that I did last year. And actually the conditions are beautiful this year. Really nice so far and calm. So let's see what happens next. Quite a few other pilots did take off and headed into the high mountains or push out onto the ridge in front. By this point, I was set on my plan to head to the top of Scafell Pike. .10:50 and the promised wind has come now, so I'm settling in for my day of hiking. There's a couple of wings still, gale hanging on the peak there. Dylan's gone over onto the next ridge. I've also not learnt from last year and I've soaked my feet already. It's the bog. I brought the Gore-Tex shoes, but I didn't wear them. What an idiot. So next year, this is a reminder to myself to definitely wear the Gore-Tex shoes, regardless of the heat. Soaked through already, and it's only 10:50. Up here is where I went last year when I was in the cloud by the time I got up to the top there. Fantastic paragliding weather! But this time it's still as windy, but perfectly clear, so it's going to be beautiful up there today. Absolutely beautiful. The shoes are still completely soaked. With fresh legs, I powered on to the top of Scafell Pike, even with my heavy 8-kilo bag. But when I reached the top, it was packed with tourists and I couldn't wait to get down. Soon I headed off the back into the quieter, more remote mountains of the Western Fells. Even though it's slightly out of my way, I'm going down to put my feet in the lake for lunch and prepare for the next big climb. Also dry out my socks, hopefully dry out my shoes a bit, get some fuel in and then settle in for some more hiking. I want to try and get the weather as well. Sometime I get signals so that I can check if it's possible to fly maybe a little bit later on. Apparently there's a path all the way across that face. I think I can see little bits of it, but that looks pretty insane if it is true. It's a little bit out of my way, but I'm going to go down to the lake because I got to climb up that afterwards. So I definitely want some food first. I think I've found a way to save a little bit of the insane climb up here. It's to take the Windy Gap, which is 100 meters lower, and I think I can get both turn points from there in one go without going over the main insane peak. Although Windy Gap itself is pretty steep. Okay, I think I've got a plan. I'm going to go and camp near Floughton Tarn. I wanted to camp near a tarn tonight so I can potentially have a swim, or at the very least get some reliable water, and just these spots are beautiful. So Floughton Tarn is great. It's in the lee of a hill, so hopefully it'll be nice and calm from the southerly gales that are coming through. And I'm going to go along a route of quite high turn points, Wainwrights. To start, I'm going to go up here and along. And then if I've got loads of time, there's a few more I can capture on the other side of the tarn, but if not, I can just settle in the tarn early. Made it to Windy Gap, which, because it's an east-west gap, is absolutely still. It's a pretty interesting part of the race today is that a lot of the places I've been have been perfectly still, beautiful. In fact, could have done with a bit of wind to cool down. But that's because I'm behind these big crags, big peaks that are blocking the wind in the valleys. But once I do get to an exposed point, things change a lot. The tarn where I want to camp is on the other side of that ridge there. So I've got to go along this one to get a few points. There's still a lot of up and down to do. And then drop down, go up to that one. into the sea. Coming up to 5 p.m. I'm absolutely soaked through my t-shirt. Annoyingly, I'm out of water, so I'm going to have to go down in the valley here. I was just getting water absolutely everywhere earlier, but these peaks are a lot drier, interestingly, further to the west. But I can see a babbling brook down there that the path takes me to. I've just noticed as well that my pace is really slowing, mainly because of the steepness of the ups and the downs. I'm really not travelling that fast when there's so much elevation gain and descent as well in every kilometre. So can't push it too much. Got to be finished by 10. Got to be at the lake by 10 or before, so I can have a swim. As the day wore on, the relentless up and down rapidly sapped my energy. I am absolutely flagging now. I've got enough fuel this time, I feel like. The homemade gels are working really well. And I had a few bars and a bit of my dinner sandwich for lunch. So it's more just complete fatigue now after 32k or something like that. Just one foot in front of the other. Gradually get there. In true style, I've got one insane climb with switch packs up the path all the way to go. Another 250 meters or so to climb. Then I can power along the top, drop down to my tarn. Oh my God, I've made it up that insane climb. It started to rain as well. Got all the rain covers on. Oh. Just gotta go there and down to my campsite. Wow, you can see the sea there, amazing. That's probably where this rain's coming from. There's a cold front coming in. This could be the top of that. But yeah, now I'm on the flat, I can move at more than 1 kilometre an hour, I think I was doing previously. Oh, I'm so tired. I'm so tired. I'm so tired. As the sun dropped towards the sea, I dropped down to my beautiful lakeside camp spot. So I've made it 37.5 kilometres, 2,778 metres climbed, and I've been sweating the entire day. I'm destroyed. But I did it. I climbed Scaffold Pike and I have made it to a beautiful campsite. You can just hear the water in the background, that's it, totally sheltered. I'm gonna go around the corner, have a wash, and get my tent ready so I can come back, get away from the midges. But yeah, what an amazing day. I've sweated through litres of water. That's a problem for tomorrow me. My feet are looking much better this year, with a few sock changes. Now it's time to get water. Oh, that feels so good. As it was so calm at the beginning of the night, I decided not to put out my guy ropes. This turned out to be a big mistake as the wind changed right in the middle of the night. I slept pretty well, but the tent collapsed halfway through the night because I didn't put the guy ropes out. And the winds picked up as expected. Oh. So I had to go out and shore the whole thing down. Today I've given myself quite a tough task. I've got 25k to do. I've got a fair few less hours to do it. Wow, that's really windy. But yeah, just gotta get a jog on. I'm still feeling super disappointed not to fly all weekend. I definitely would rather be flying. With the prospect of 25 kilometers to hike, I put my camera away and powered along the paths through the sun and the rain to get back to Grasmere.
But before we start, can I thank
That evening, the Cumbria Soaring Club put on a fantastic show with prize giving, raffle and music. As always, it was great to see the impact this community can have with the charity element of the event. And just like that, it was the end of another X Lakes. I was back in the car driving the 300 miles to home and back in the office the next day. Even though it was great to meet up with many of my friends and introduce my little boy to some of them, overall I came back feeling super deflated. After reflecting on it, I had pretty much given up on flying from the start. Some of the best flights happened in the evening when the winds had calmed down, but I wasn't paying much attention to the forecast at that point. I was just trudging along on my way to a lake to camp by. Next week, I was still recovering from my disappointment, and my forecast tab on the laptop lit up with some amazing thermal forecasts for the coming days. Before my blisters could even start to recover, I was on my way to Malvern with my wing on my back. So it's a couple of weeks on from the X Lakes and I didn't get much flying there. It's a super rainy day here in London, but that means that the frontal system is going to clear through for tomorrow to make a nice post-frontal day with fantastic thermals forecast. So I'm going to try something new. It's midweek flying on a Thursday. Because of the way I work, I've got all of my work on this little Surface laptop. So I'm going to work on my way out on the train to Malvern, try and fly back as far towards London as I can, and then head back home for Zach's bedtime. Let's see how it goes. So I'm at home. I've packed all my kit up, ready to go. And I'm just doing some route planning for tomorrow, checking the NOTAMs and things like that. I've got 150k route, just a waypoint to head for, basically, because it's always nice to have a goal. 6:52 train from Paddington, which means from East London here, I've got to get up at 4:45. So it's going to be an early wake up and a pretty long journey. But the better I fly, the closer I am to home. I was super excited, but now I've got to relax, get a good night's sleep. That's the key. The next morning I was up before 6 a.m. and on the first bus to get the train across London to Paddington to get the final train all the way to Malvern. I did a little bit of work along the way and also kept an eye on the forecast, which was looking even better than it had the night before. I also met up with Jared and Richard on the train. Richard had thought ahead and booked a taxi as there were already a dozen pilots who wanted to get a taxi to the hill, but we managed to get the first one. By the time we got to the top of the hill, there were at least 30 pilots from around the country setting up to get ready to fly. Having flown from Malvern a few times before, I'd learnt that it gets busy early and also the wind can pick up quite quickly. So I got ready to launch very, very quickly. You can see how quickly the air got full from these videos that Jared took. Despite how good the sky looked out ahead, it took quite a while for the thermals to start coming through to the hill. My flying was on point. You can see from the track log how I kept scoping out ahead of the hill, and I was actually the first to take this first thermal of the day. A larger group got the stronger core, and I went back to join them. To begin with, I flew conservatively, topping up as much height as I could early on, but following other pilots wherever I could. As soon as I was confident that I could see other pilots going up, I powered ahead on speed bar right to the next climb.
All the way beyond Evesham, I continued to repeat the process, topping up height whenever I needed. But as soon as I saw gliders ahead getting lift, I powered ahead to meet them. Then, while I was focusing on a climb, my XE Tracer, which is the instrument that beeps to tell me if I'm in climbing or sinking air, just turned itself off. I had no idea what happened. At first I thought it would run out of batteries, but I was convinced that I'd charged it the night before. So with my giant gloves on, I fiddled around, plugging it into the USB power bank, but still nothing happened. I got the Vario sounds working on my iPhone, and then I thought, wait, let me just try turning it back on. So I held the power button again with my bulky gloves, and it turned back on. I figured out that my Garmin InReach had been pressed up against the on-off button of the XE Tracer and turned it off mid-flight. While I was fiddling with all of this, I dropped all the way from 2,500 meters right down to just 400 meters above the ground. Luckily, I just managed to scratch up and get back in the game. I was still short of beating my personal best, and this could have ended my flight. Over the next couple of hours, I flew across the scar in the land, which is HS2. I passed around the airspace around Silverstone as a race was underway. And I flew over the roundabouts of Milton Keynes, marking a big milestone, beating my personal best and heading towards 100 kilometers. Many of the pilots that I'd taken off with had powered way ahead, but throughout the day I was never short of flying with other pilots, as pilots were spread out all across the sky. After 5 hours in the air, I not only beat my personal best, I not only beat 100 kilometers, but I'd got to 129 kilometers. By this point, I hit my limit, which was my bladder. I do have a system where I can use a tube to pee in the air, but I have this superstition where every time I put it in, I end up landing straight away. So today I decided not to wear it. What a big mistake. With the sky absolutely booming and pilots lifting everywhere around me, I spiraled down at Bedford. As I landed, a dad with his kid took these amazing photos of me coming in. I've done it, I've made it. Like 125 kilometers, I haven't even checked. Way past my personal best, all the way to Bedford. And I said I'd be home for Zach's bedtime, so I'm running to the station to see what I can get. Yeah, what an amazing flight. I was absolutely exhausted by the end, so I was spiraling down because there was a lift going up everywhere. I could have carried on for another few hours, I reckon, in the day. So got to prepare for future flights with a P tube or something, because my bladder was the main reason that I needed to land and to go and get Zach. I can't believe it. My flight almost ended halfway through because my XE Tracer just turned itself off mid-flight, and I lost so much height trying to charge it, and then it was fully charged, so I think it just got turned off by my Garmin, like pushing up against it, which is absolute disaster. I can't believe it. Oh, such a waste of time and a waste of height, but I made it back up, and by the time I got to here, it was going up everywhere, and it was very hard to get down. Oh, so good. Just got to build that stamina up as well for these kind of days, to be able to fly for 6-8 hours. It's too much for me still, but made it anyway. I'm still insanely happy to have smashed my PB and made such a crazy journey across the UK. Got to see HS2 laid out in front of me like a big scar across the landscape. I got to see a Silverstone race going on from 4,500 feet. Man, what an insane day. I've got to run back to the station to get back for Zach's bedtime. Made the train, 20 minutes run from the landing spot. The Bedford train took me right into central London at rush hour. Packed in the train shoulder to shoulder, I had the thought that no one around me knew I'd just flown halfway across the country at 2,500 meters. So there it is, a perfect example of the ups and downs of flying in the UK. From a disappointing week in the lakes to a flight of over 5 hours where the only limit was my stamina in the air, smashing my personal best by 40 kilometers. This flight's got me even more excited about flying long distances in the UK and traveling by train to do it. So keep an eye on this channel as I've got a few more ideas. I just got to wait for the forecast.